the. Oh wait.
You didn't have
Welcome
go
to the
with mine
Dresden
there.
Files. No, I'm just kidding. So.
Yeah, welcome to the other podcast we do sometimes.
Yeah,
Right.
we're going
Like
to try
every other
really
week,
hard not
half
to
the
talk
time.
Dresden.
Right.
No, we're not going.
Because this is why we weren't recording. And while we weren't recording, we decided to talk about things that we liked. Because what episode are we on? Is this 5?
Yep.
So we've got 4 bitching episodes. So if you want to see us mad about something, go watch the first episode. And then if you want to see us happy about something, we're going to tell you why we're happy about this and all that other shit makes us mad. So
Yes.
we're also going to swear and
Positivity.
spoil everything because nothing new has really come out in the last little while unless you want to talk about the thing that we're not going to talk about this show. So it's not like there's some new movies we're going to spoil. A lot of everything is 6 months old. So we're going to probably talk about Star Wars. We're probably going to talk about Star Trek and other stuff, because guess what? As much as we bitch about those things, we bitch because it comes from a source of love, because we really love the source material and they just handed them to really shit storytellers. So like D&D. So anyway, now I think I've hit the trifecta, right? So we've said all the angry things.
Yeah, we're not allowed to be angry anymore for this
Yeah,
episode.
I'm sure that'll hold.
So who wants to tell us why they're happy today? What do you love?
I love his angry face.
Right? It's just
Uh,
so adorable.
I know. Makes me happy to say things.
I'd start with Andreas, but then we're going to hear about like how he loves this random ass book no one's heard of, and it just
No, he's gonna talk about Kinder eggs because they can get the real ones over in Europe and we can't.
like
Valid.
real as in choking hazard toys or real as in
Mhm.
the real chocolate. So
Do you remember growing up those things, the Wonder Balls that we used to get as kids? It was the same concept. They had like toys or candy or something in it, and it was like we were trusted to eat those without choking to death.
well, that's because they had wooden cars inside of them, so you could. No, I have no
Oh,
idea.
you could have
what you're
easily
talking about.
swallowed some of the stuff that was in there.
Nice. Well, I mean,
Kids
it's
today
like
are soft.
lawn darts. So yeah, and
Mm.
back in my day, we dodged lawn darts, kids. So
Right.
if
Well,
we
listen,
survived that, then
you're the one with kids here. You should just start toughening them up. Get them
Oh,
real
no,
Kinder eggs. Throw lawn darts at them.
right, and we get some of the Kinder Egg like things, right? But now they break it up into 2 things, where it's like it's an egg, but only half of the egg is chocolate and individually wrapped away from the toy, or yeah, we watched that shit.
Stupid.
So, but so that's not a thing that we're happy about, apparently.
You're not happy about
Um,
your kids? What kind of dad are you?
Low blow. So what else? I mean, for me, some of the stuff we were talking about before the show was just like I actually like loads of shit. It's because of that I hate what they've done with it new, right?
Right.
But if you
like,
want to boil it down, it's good storytelling, right? Like regardless of the universe you're in, build some world, expand on it, do something clever with it. If you're going to violate the tropes, make it clever, not just ignored, right? It's not cool to ignore the expected storytelling twists. It's cool to further expand on them. I'm not saying like a double triple cross is cool. That's lame. Once you get like, I think you can go as far as Snape level, where it's like, was he the double triple secret agent or not? I don't know, and some fans aren't convinced, right? Like that's as
I
deep.
mean,
as you can-
regardless of what he was, he was a fucking asshole.
well,
sure,
that's
yeah.
true too. Except for all that time he spent protecting Harry, right? So you
but
get
he
into
still
that,
fucking basically
He's
tormented
evil.
him.
and
Yeah, but Harry sucked.
and he's a dick. But yeah, right. He probably took out on Harry some of his childhood trauma from his dad, right? But
Oh, his dad was
Um,
easily the worst character in that book. I was happier that he learned that he was dead more than Voldemort at the end.
But then
James
he's
Potter
coming
was
back.
James Potter was just a terrible person.
You also got beat up by magic jocks, I take it. But
No,
yeah. So anyway, so yeah, follow the tropes, do fun things with them. Be internally consistent. To expand on that on a deeper level. Like if you're going to have magic or science fantasy, the more interesting story is what it can't do. Okay, if you just came off the back of a trilogy where we've wiped out the evil empire, having a brand new evil empire for reasons with an even bigger Death Star that we don't understand, not the cool way to do. 2 movies later, having an even bigger secret evil fleet that was built by a clone emperor who should be dead is not the cool way to go. Like, why is that the fun story? So yeah, having something to fill in those gaps. Like, you can't just make these huge ass fucking jumps, tease your story throughout. Foreshadowing would be a thing. Like, I can't think of a single instance. I want to be fair. I can't think of a single instance in the new Star Wars trilogy where any foreshadowing is used whatsoever. Like, anything that could potentially relate to that, I think. I'm trying to remember if it was brought up in this show or if it was another conversation I was having, but talking about how I always held the belief that Finn should have been the hero, right? And then somebody was like, of course you thought so, because it was done in the trailer. Everything in the initial trailers were set up to make you think Finn was going to be the Jedi. They don't show Rey with the lightsaber. They show Finn with the lightsaber and all of this stuff, right? That's a kind of foreshadowing. But, then you have all of this shit with Finn and then boom, Rey is the Jedi. Why? There was nothing at all to build up to that. There was, so the epic moment is more like a what? What are we doing here? Like, it should have been Maz. It would have been more believable that she's actually a badass and secretly a Jedi, like she's Yoda's wife, than, like all the stupid shit. Well, I know I'm just throwing out stupid, crazy ass ideas, but I would have bought that more than what we had with Rey, from the first movie. Because there's nothing leading you to that, right? There's no sense of discovery. There's just wham. She's the chosen one. Because the whole Force chose her. All of them. The whole thing.
Every here you thought we were going to talk about positive things.
Positivity.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm saying good and bad examples.
Positive, by the way.
You only gave bad examples. What is an example of something that did it well, that you were happy, that satisfied everything?
Well, I mean, so to take the inverse of that stuff, like, again, you can take the original Star Wars, right? So we got a farm kid, right? Because as Jim Butcher says, every good high fantasy story starts with a farm boy. Right?
So read Codex Alera.
So shut up. We're not talking exclusively about that, but I have to quote where the quote's coming from. So, Star Wars starts on a farm. Lord of the Rings, that you should fucking read, starts on a farm.
Shire is not a farm. They're slightly different.
Yes, the whole thing is a farm. It's a bread basket.
I will read it. It is on my bookshelf. I'm in the middle.
I've at least read the first
books.
book, so I'm ahead of you. But anyway, so
hold on, you're yelling at me for not reading the series, and you haven't read the full series.
Every good chosen one starts on a farm. You get a little taste of the space magic. You get a little taste of him learning how to space magic. And then, so like, take the scene where he's fighting a remote, right? The little orb that shoots him in the ass because he's bad at using a lightsaber while blindfolded, because who the fuck wouldn't be? And that's not fair, but, we're going to learn through hard knocks because, we have to. And then to take that lesson that happens in the first 30 minutes, that means nothing. It's just a little bit of world building. And then have that be like the culminating epic moment of, Luke, you've turned off your targeting scanner. What's wrong? And to borrow from, Morpheus, for example, because I'm going to bring in every kind of sci-fi and fantasy here. What's wrong is he's starting to believe. He's believing that he's the one, So then he fires the torpedoes. The ship blows up. We celebrate. Everybody gets a medal except for Chewbacca. And then we go home, Come on, I had to throw that in there. But, those are, the story builds on itself. There isn't, obviously you've got to start from nothing at some point, right? You're just going to have to take for granted these worlds exist, big empire, all of these things, but those are the building blocks where they then build the story, which is what we're here to see. It's not cool for you to just be like, so here's the giant evil empire. They own 12,000 star systems. They've got 43 trillion star destroyers and all of this shit. Nobody cares. That's not the world building we want. It's like, this is a big bad guy ship. He's chasing the little bad guy ship, and then we're going to tell you why this is important along the way. Whereas a lot of, the stories that we rant about take the existing universes, fuck all that noise. We only want the images and the name. And then we're just going to pit them against each other, and we don't know why, and we don't care, and we're not going to tell you why they're the hero and whatever. One of the things we were talking about before the show, like one of the stories that started to kind of like gel this idea for me was Deadpool and Deadpool 2. Nobody has any background in this shit. Like even among comic book aficionados, like the fans of Deadpool are relatively small, at least until recently. Like it's definitely become more of a pop culture thing. He's like the unofficial mascot of Comic Cons everywhere now, all of a sudden, and shit like that. But come on, like not a lot of people were like, oh yeah, well I buy X-Men comics and I buy the Avengers and I buy Deadpool. On a list of them versus Spider-Man versus even Cable. I mean, Cable's his own, microcosm, basically, sort of thing as well. Cable's my Boba Fett for the Marvel Universe, that sort of thing. You go all the way deep into this, right? So we go into the story. The only thing we know about it is that he's some kind of mutant with some kind of Marvel character, and we're going to watch the movie. And they deliver a story. They deliver a coherent thing. As crazy as the shit that ever happens in the movie, like the one big gimme is his superpower. The fact that he can apparently be blown into tiny bits and still come back from it. But other than that, there's never a scene that I can think of where it's like, it pulls me out of the story, right? They build on it naturally. They build through it. And the more important thing isn't the fact, like they don't eviscerate him in every scene. They don't focus on his superpower. They just tell a story around it. Good storytelling. That's what we like. At the end of the day, Star Trek, Star Wars, 40K, Aliens, Predator, Terminator, on and on and on. So much good sci-fi and fantasy. But at the end of the day, good storytelling. So, okay, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
I told you we should sometimes just rename this as Justin Talks. Yells about stuff.
I spend so much time thinking about this and talking to my other friend groups. I play Destiny a lot. My clanmates, we get deep into the lore and things like that. If we want to get into deep world building, like you could talk about the kinds of stories is like post-apocalyptic for some reason, less fun now that we're living in it. Post-apocalyptic can be fun, and then cyclical stories. Those for whatever reason, those push my buttons. I like those. So when you start to see elements of that, that's great. But again, at the very least, use the storytelling tropes. If you're going to violate them, make it compelling and fun, not ignoring them. There's just some beats that you gotta have. Like the Chosen One is, if he's a farm boy, he doesn't just get to learn about his superpowers. He's got to have a mentor. That's part of the trope, right?
A training montage.
Something. I mean, it doesn't have to be a montage, but give me some inkling that dude did not just pick up a lightsaber and be able to use it.
A thing that we want is a sense of accomplishment that we're just getting vicariously. So the character has to earn it for us to care about it. And if they don't earn it, this is why we're mad at Butters. Breaking my own rules.
Butters went to school for 8 years to be a Knight of the Cross. Okay, so.
Right. Other podcasts. I broke my own rule, but it's just like that. That is kind of, I think, why it annoyed us. Is like this is the thing I hated about Rey was she didn't have to learn it. You see Luke learning and training with the best of them. And all she had to do was close her eyes for a couple seconds.
I mean, to be fair, that trait, what was he on Dagobah, a couple of weeks?
Well, I mean, that's a thing.
By Yoda.
Well, that's.
And he got his ass kicked. So what do you want?
Yeah.
Then he got his ass kicked, and then he went away for 2 years and did more stuff.
Yeah.
With who?
Himself.
So the same.
At some point, though, you can teach yourself. You can learn from the environment, or he's meditating. Maybe he's communing with Force ghosts, because that's apparently a pillar of the story now. Instead of a couple of one-off conversations, that's apparently what they've been doing for the last 60 years. But yeah, like he still had to get a foundation, right? He didn't just show up, get his ass kicked by Yoda, and then, suddenly go fight Darth Vader. In fact, Yoda told him, don't fucking do it. You're not ready.
And then he suffered for it, as he should.
Right, exactly. He earned it because...
Earned suffering is also fun.
Right. so bad things happen sometimes because you're stupid is why they happen, So, but yeah, so storytelling, right? I don't know. So, director, give us something different. Give us
I like magic
can't.
systems that I can predict and work with. I like being able
Right.
to figure out the puzzles. So I realized like a month or two ago, having a conversation about Pokemon, it's like I never played the games because I never really knew that they existed. But I
Mhm.
remember watching the cartoon and being so excited about it
Mhm.
because they had to keep to a rigidity that was expected of like, okay, so Pikachu can do these things, Pikachu can do those things.
Right.
And like if they were like, I knew them after a long time. And so if they did a matchup, I knew exactly what they could do. And it just
Right.
kind of clicked to me. It's like, I like hard magic systems. And that was the first one I ever really saw.
Right.
That's what Sanderson can do really well. It's like Mistborn is a really good example of you have these rules and bad shit's happening, and this is what you can do to get out of it. It's like really predictable law of physics things that just aren't real that you can use as tools and puzzles and stuff. Like every time I'm reading something and I learn about a magic system, I basically put down the book for a few minutes, like, what can you do with this?
Right.
And it's so exciting to me. So I go around looking and learning about magic systems. It's why like Shalon in Stormlight Archive is kind of fun because she is driven to learn and write things down about the magic system, and that's giving me what I want.
Right. Well, and I mean, it kind of ties into my idea of like being clever with it, right? You set up the
Yes.
table, you set up the rules. Maybe as the reader, you or as the consumer in this case, if it's TV or movie or whatever, you don't see how we get from here to there. But then the author shows you, like, here is the Rube Goldberg machine of, sure, yeah, it's only a ball and a couple of levers and a couple of dominoes, but now I'm going to show you how it gets from here all the way over here and puts a pie in your face or whatever. It's just using the mechanics in some, like, of course he can do that because he kind of explained to it, but I didn't see it coming. Like,
Yes, and I enjoy the being able to play with in my own head of hard magic systems, but I can still really enjoy the soft ones where they don't really explain it and it is kind of an unknown. But I need to know that there are rules that I don't understand, that it is following an internal consistency
right.
that's just unknown to me.
Right. Well, I mean, one thing for like soft magic systems, and maybe this isn't the right track, but like to borrow some of the other tropes or things that we didn't like, right? Is like if you come into a soft magic system and it's like, I'm the villain and I've got this crazy ass power. And the reason is because nobody else has thought of it, or because nobody else has dared, or because of whatever. It's like, well, now the lid is off and anybody can do whatever they want. And that's not fun, where again, because it's like, everyone just is honor bound to follow the rules until the villain was like, wahaha, twists evil mustache. Like, I'm the only one breaking the rules. And it's like, no, that's not how people work.
Right.
Everybody would be doing it, like, which is why we don't have force lightning, because I would electrocute so many cars, like so many. But I've been stuck in traffic way too much in my life. There would be like
Okay,
12
fair.
of us.
Yeah, fair. The traffic sucks. It's one of the benefits of
All right.
quarantine. Is
Things we do like. No, yeah, for sure. Yeah, my commute is super long to the family room.
Andreas, your turn.
I mean, I don't know what to contribute with those shows, so they'll just have some bullshit book that nobody knows and that's not allowed. So
Tell us why you like the land. Oh wait, did you give up on that one?
no, I mean I haven't. I mean I'm gonna give at least one more book a go, but
Yeah.
because my roommate really likes it, but I don't love it.
Okay, tell us about something that none of the rest of us have read. Monster Hunter International. Yeah, exactly. so
I mean,
seriously,
I'm not that huge a Monster Hunter International fan. I think they're okay. I just think that you would really like them.
I got you. So what attracts you about them though? Because you've read more than one. You've read more.
I've read everything except the latest one.
So whether you say you like it or not,
they're they're pulpy. They're actiony. It's just a good time.
Right.
I don't really care so much about the guns, but the characters are pretty well realized for what they are. They're pretty consistent. It's I would say it's more or less a soft magic system. It's just like kind of like there's demons, there's evil shit, there's Cthulhu monsters, and they can do powerful things. We have guns and some magic users, kinda. And it's like, it's that whole. It's been a while since I've read them, but it's that whole ragtag team kind of action. You remember that vampire movie from with the what's his name? The guy who they make fun of in Family Guy. Where like, ooh, a piece
Really
of candy.
narrows it down.
Yeah,
Ooh,
what?
a piece of,
James
ooh,
Woods.
a piece of candy. What?
James Woods.
Yeah, James Woods. He did a vampire movie.
Okay.
If anyone's ever seen that, like early 2000s, late 90s.
I mean, I
What?
almost had to
What?
have, but James Woods
And now
vampire,
the sound of Googling.
right? Holy crap! Google even auto-completed vampire movie for me. It's just called Vampires, 1998. John Carpenter's Vampires. Yeah.
Yeah,
What?
which is like it was like a what would say like a ragtag team.
Okay, it's been too long since I've seen this movie then, but
Which was also good. They say it's not very deep, right? It's not
sure.
but it's a good time. That's why I like that.
Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of D+ on a scale of A+ to F. People are idiots. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I mean,
James Carpenter
it is,
makes good shit, and if
it
it's
is a pulpy movie that too as well. It's like it's one of those like where it's like, isn't that the definition of pulp? Where it's like it's not that good, but it's good. Isn't that what like?
well,
kinda
it's funny because like you're describing it, you were like magic system. Like I don't think the good guys get to use magic, right? So then it turns into firepower is the answer, and if it is not the answer, you have failed to use enough of it. So I think that's the underlying theme of that.
the
book.
humans generally don't have. And I mean, I don't want to spoil anything because I want you to check it out.
Sure.
The humans don't really have magic, but they do have. They have allies who are like magical races, kind of that can use some magic.
Gotcha.
They have a literal internet troll in their basement.
I think I've heard that joke. Yeah. So, did you ever watch Bright on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
Thought-
I know lots of people didn't enjoy the movie, but I think it
was
hit
fine.
a lot of the tropes, and I mean, if you want to see like bad boys with orcs and elves and shit, I think the story could have been better, but
It
Yes.
definitely could have been better.
yeah. But again, what does that come down to, right? We didn't say the themes were bad. We said the story wasn't that great, So we like good stories. So we were, because one of the other things we were talking about, right? Like the rules are relatively simple, and it's okay to break the rules, but you got to be good at it, right? You can't just ignore the rules because they're there. It's not like the law of gravity. It's just a set of expectations, right? In our culture and through our history, we've seen certain tropes, the hero of 1,000 faces and shit like that, huge Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, on and on and on. These are really big core foundational ideas. So when you borrow from that deep storytelling, you can't just fucking ignore it, like you can't like, it's not a drive-by. You can't be like, oh, sure, they're the chosen one, but we're not going to follow their journey. We're not going to do whatever. They just like wake up one day and can, manipulate the world around them or whatever. Like I think part of why it sucks is because there's nothing to grab onto. That's not a story. That's 5-year-old, like daydreaming. That's like, I can just lift cars with my mind. Why can you do that? Well, because I can, because I said so. So I could do the thing. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fun for kids, but it's not exactly a compelling story to latch onto. So,
I mean, if I should talk about something that I really love and that I think is also more something people might actually know, it would either be Sanderson's Cosmere books, which I think director Alex has read most of them.
No, I can't keep up with him.
Oh.
I plan to. I'm going to dedicate a large amount of bookshelf eventually.
I mean, I've listened. I haven't read all of them, but I've listened to all the Cosmere books, and I'm reading his sci-fi book too. Sanderson just does really good stuff, I think.
He's very good.
I think there's an author I like even more. That's not Jim Butcher. Is Joe Abercrombie. His books are so good.
Lots of
Uh,
books about shirts, I gather.
Shirts? Oh, it's Abercrombie. We don't have that store here, so I didn't.
I figured it was a risky meme for you,
Yeah.
so yeah.
I read The Blade itself, and it. I mean, I enjoyed definitely parts of it. Glokta isn't the best character to a certain archetype, and I just never picked up the second book. I'm probably going to end up reading the first and continuing on with the
Oh,
series.
you definitely should. They're so. I've read the first Law trilogy, his 3 standalones, the short story collection, and the new trilogy he started, and his young adult series too. That's not in this world, and it's all really good.
Wait, okay. His handle on Twitter is Lord Grimdark, and he's writing a young adult. Whoa.
It's It's
Teenagers
it's
need murdered too. So.
It's a young adult grimdark, and it's actually it's.
Oh
really
wait,
good.
sorry, that's way too American of an idea. Never mind.
And I know he's called Mr. Grimdark on Twitter, but I mean honestly, his books are not that grimdark compared to some other books out there.
Like what?
I don't read that much
What's the
grimdark, but
I
people,
guess
when
maybe the 40K is where the term grimdark comes from, so maybe that's more grimdarky. But like he has that appellation for a reason.
I mean, I just think
because he's a big nerd.
They're very realistic, those books, in terms of their characters. Like, they're very human.
You have to be realistic about these things.
The voice actor for the audiobooks, by the way, is amazing. Better than James. Sorry, James. You're good. This guy's better.
I don't know, man. James carried me through the Vampire War trilogy or whatever it was. Like,
I listened to that because you said it was there. I enjoyed it. It sounded stupid. I was like, hey, that was actually not bad.
I think he's the only reason why I made it through those books, to be honest. Like, yeah. So yeah, it sounds good and funny talking about, grimdark and whatever. That story probably could have easily lended itself to the genre without being like, it's the deep dark of space and I'm really mad and I'm also Batman for some reason. But, so like stuff like that. But yeah, like James is that good. He carried a book that I probably wouldn't have otherwise finished. So that's the positive spin on that.
As for this voice actor, specifically, Dr. Alex, you brought up a character called Glokta. This character has like all his front teeth has been removed. He only has like some teeth left, and they're like removed opposite of each other, so he can't chew food.
I forgot about that.
Super fascinating.
But the thing is, though, the voice actor for the books, when Glokta speaks, he speaks like he doesn't have, like he's missing teeth. But then when we hear Glokta's internal monologue, he thinks in his normal voice before he lost his teeth.
Nice.
Which I think is a really neat detail.
Right.
He's just really good. He does the voices so well. I cannot praise him enough. Mm-hmm. And the whole First Law universe, I would recommend that to anyone. It's very character driven, but the plot really develops over the books. But it's very character driven books. But I like character driven books.
Nice.
Jacob,
that's a thing
quiet.
I really love.
He doesn't love anything, so he doesn't have anything to contribute.
Say it's a positivity episode.
So I was thinking he's probably like the Punisher of this episode. He likes it when bad things happen to good people. That's
Berserk?
what he likes. So,
Berserk?
I don't know it.
Oh,
it's a manga, an anime.
Yeah, I never did any of the anime because I saw like 3 seconds of the animation. It's like, no, thank you. I will go back to the manga. But that's also a grimdark, I will say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do
is.
much in the way of anime and manga. I did the casual stuff like Naruto and Bleach for a while, and
that explains the running.
Some of the old stuff like Trigun. That was good. Hellsing I liked, even though it ended too soon.
Naruto is really good if you cut out all the fillers.
Well, that's pretty much every anime that's ever existed.
Right.
It's better without the fillers. There's been like maybe 2 good filler arcs in the history of history.
Right. There's only 5 episodes of Dragon Ball Z, but the rest of it is...
Dragon Ball Z Abridged is great. I still watch that shit on YouTube.
I would die on this hill that I think the best anime is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
That is an amazing one.
It
It's not
is
exactly
so.
a hot take.
Yeah,
It's not really
it
a hot
is not a
take,
hot
but
take.
I cannot get my roommates to agree with me.
I've also
Have they
seen it.
watched it and
Yeah,
disliked it?
they have watched it. They think it's okay. I say it's the best, followed by Death Note.
Yeah,
Death Note is
was
another.
alright. I
that's an
didn't like it
example-
after what's his face died.
Yeah, L.
L.
L is definitely.
Then
one
it
of
was
the
just
most
like, why
interesting.
are you still doing this? This makes no sense to me.
But that was also a good example of like, here are the rules of how the supernatural works. Have at it, and very logical, only minorly superhuman abilities mentally to get that taken care of.
I got to tease you guys because this is one of those where I was like, it's somehow interesting, right? Like I've never heard anything too terrible about it, but what's the one-liner? I write a name in a book and the person dies, and then they do interesting and compelling things with that, huh? There's a really deep, twisty plot. Like what if I only write half of his name? Does he only half die? Like what are the rules here that you're like?
I mean, the rules of it, you have to have the full name and you have to have seen at least a picture of the person or have met them in person. A drawing, no matter how photorealistic, does not work. And
Okay.
if you give up half of your lifespan to a Shinigami, then you get to see people's years left and their name above their head.
I see.
There's weird things about that, but it's like, if you have the ability to kill anyone that you could without any form of trace back to you, and you can detail in all of the different ways that they can die, and it's extremely absurd. Think blood rights.
So it's not just like kill this fucker. You like
No.
write their death
You can-
story.
You can, yes, exactly.
I got
You
If
you.
you
can
do
choose
nothing,
to
they die of a heart
specify.
attack.
Yeah, if you don't
Right.
specify how to say.
Yeah. And then if you have the ability to do that, what do you do?
Kill people.
Don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not so many people I could think of. I don't know. I mean, you're either obviously an assassin
stop it.
for hire, but
You
Well,
just need to
I
think
d-
about it for a hot second. You
yeah,
could
I
come up with
don't.
at
I don't
least
want to let
50
the
names.
I don't want the mind to wander that far, but we might have to replace some leadership positions. That's all.
Exactly. And,
Well, in the
And
way
now
your
Justin
mind,
is on a list.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's
The
why I
way
was super
your-
vague about it.
your mind wanders about good writing. My mind wanders about how could I creatively kill someone with the death note every once in a while.
And
By once in
therefore,
a
I
while,
will
I
never
mean
watch
on
the
a
show.
daily.
Death
It would
Note
be a
was
very
good.
handy thing to have.
Have any of you heard of Ikigami?
No.
I
guess
feel
not.
like I have, but I'm not. It's not that whole anime genre. Like I can still count on one hand how many I've liked.
Yeah,
I don't know. I need to visualize.
So I think it was drawn by the same person who does Death Note, but I'm not fully certain on that. I just think it because it looks the same. There's a thing that Japan did, and this is the stupidest part of the premise, is that they decided people weren't caring about life enough. So at the entry into school, you get an injection, and every 1,000 people, when they get to the ages of 18 and 24, are going to die, and they're going to get a person to visit them 24 hours ahead of time, telling them you're going to die. You have 24 hours. Take care of your affairs. And this is like a synthetic tragedy to make everyone else care about life.
Hmm.
And
You got red-shirted. Gotcha.
the main
Tropes.
character that you kind of follow is the guy that goes up to the people and says, you're going to die in 24 hours. Here's the card that proves everything and blah, blah, blah. But then there's a bunch of short story vignettes of how those people react to that information. And those get a little crazy. If you just change that one thing, how does all of society change? And it explores that in both good and tragic ways. And that's really fun.
Sounds okay. It's not exactly the same, but like Repo Man kind of vibes. If you've seen that movie,
I have not.
okay. Anyone seen it other than me?
I'm sure someone in
Heard of, but yeah.
It's like basically capitalist future. You can get any organ you want replaced if something goes wrong, but it's all rented and they repossess it as soon as you don't pay,
Oh, right,
I remember seeing
that.
bits of that now.
which is actually a pretty good movie.
It's decent enough.
Pretty-
Another thing I like.
Right. Pretty gruesome too, though, isn't it? So
Yeah,
I would
it's pretty
think so.
dark.
yeah. I think that's part of why I don't remember the time that I was being told about it, but I don't shy away from a lot of that shit. I don't get into like the torture porn and whatever. That's too far. But I definitely like horror tropes and darker
Oh, yeah,
stories.
it's not like
but,
Saw levels of
Yeah.
torture porn or
It
anything.
was a musical, if I remember right. So
That
it's
I
like
don't know.
I
so
remember
was
being
Sweeney
shown
Todd.
bits of that.
was he
I-
singing? Right?
Yes.
But it is like it's a good movie. It's good actors too. Like what is it? Jude Law and what's his name? The guy with the lazy eye. Like
Forrest
guy.
Whitaker.
Yeah, Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
Which is like
It's funny, like everybody's like, know exactly what you're
yeah,
Mhm.
talking about.
which is like really good actors.
Right. Nice. We like it when people can't pay the rent on their organs. That's what we like. Also,
This-
very American storytelling.
It's it's a very classic. What do you want to say? Sci-fi concept, right? It's like where we take some idea and we go like, what happens if, that's like
So-
very classic sci-fi.
Altered Carbon.
Yeah, for example, like
love Altered Carbon, man. So
Okay, so
the series, I haven't read the books, but
I haven't read the
the-
books. I do know they
building is super fucking
deviate a lot, and
Yeah.
I've heard that the second season is much different than the first. I haven't watched the second.
It is, but so my concerns with the second season were that they were just going to take like the same story and just repeat it, right? That it's more sort of procedural, right? Like obviously he's not like a lawman, but it's still got private investigator vibes and just whatever else. But my also concern, because the world building to me is the more compelling part of the story at times, is that they set some of these things up in the first one, and I'm like, it's such a tragedy that they're never going to answer any of these questions. They answer a fuck ton of questions in season 2, so that might be a big part of why I like it. I also totally dig, the actors they got. I forget the gal's name who plays Kelcris. She's also in Hannibal. Hamilton. Yeah, way different H name, completely different. But so she's in that and everything. Like she also had one episode of Enterprise. You're welcome. But so she's awesome in it. Anthony Mackie is not a great pick for Kovacs, in my opinion. Love him as an actor and everything like that, but it's really hard to separate Anthony Mackie out from Kovacs, right? Because like it pulls like Nicolas Cage vibes, right? Wherever movie or role you're going to drop Nicolas Cage in, he's going to be Nicolas Cage, right? Like you could cover him in costumes, tattoos, you could change everything. He's still going to be fucking Nicolas Cage with like very few exceptions.
That is my complaint with Will Smith, and that is the biggest reason I didn't enjoy Bright.
And that's not an unfair statement, but I like Will Smith's, action persona, I guess, so like I grew up with him in like Independence Day and shit like that. So I'm like, yeah, we could do more of that. We could do more of that fighting elves and orcs, and we could do more of that fighting more different aliens, and we could do that fighting Batman and whatever else. So with him not coming back to Suicide Squad 2, it's just not worth watching. So but
Even if it's James Gunn.
yeah, I mean, we'll see. So it's a superhero movie, so who are we joking? We're all going to go see it at some point, except for the director. So
I am not paying for Suicide
did you guys
Squad.
see that trailer for what's it called, Power?
No.
Yeah, that I'm actually interested in.
That
Tell
I'm
me that.
very interested in.
Is it
that's
Netflix one?
the pill one, right? Where they
Yeah,
like
the
take
pill.
the pill and they get 5 minutes of maybe he's on
Superpowers.
fire, maybe he's indestructible. So
Basically, take the pill, reveal what your superpower is. You have 5 minutes.
But
But you
you
the
get
trailer was a
different
little-
ones. It's not like it doesn't like.
I was
do
gonna
an
say,
Eric
I was
Powers
like-
do.
It sounded more like a wild card, right? Like
Yeah.
you're robbing a bank, push the wild card button. Maybe you break through the walls. Maybe you light the money on fire. Who knows? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds terrible. But
So is this like
No,
the sequence in Emperor's New Groove when they have all of the vials and they've lost all the labels and they just drink them?
right?
now, as I understand it, each person have a specific power when they take the pill.
Right.
So they take
It-
the pill and then they know what the power is.
It looks pretty good. But yeah,
I was under the impression that it was kind of a mix all. You don't know what you're gonna get.
Right.
No, you will know what you get once you. I mean, that's just.
Well, yeah,
okay.
they might like tell you what it is even, but it's not like I.
No, what I
could
mean is,
have ice powers, and every time I take this pill, I get ice powers.
what I understand is you can take the pill again and get 5 more minutes, and you can take the pill again and get 5 more minutes, and it's
Gotcha.
always the same power because you have the power is in your genetics. The pill unlocks it.
Then I don't want to watch it.
We'll see. So
I don't know why that would change. Why you would not want to watch it, but
Because
I mean,
like
I
the
still-
idea of because kind of this random shit. You pop a pill and see what you get. See how you can work with it.
yeah,
It's
and
more
that's
interesting to me.
I mean,
Not
those
the
pills.
same power every time. That's stupid.
I got the impression in the trailer that those pills are very expensive, so most people will only have the one time.
it's your instead of your 15 minutes of fame, it's your 5 minutes of superhero-dom.
It's your 5 minutes of
Villain.
power.
Apparently, yeah.
I don't know. It seems more like they were going the pseudo junkie route, where these things are just kind of a menace on the streets now.
Well, I mean, that's part of it because, like, it seemed like part of the plot was, that somebody gets a case of these pills, so now they're just running around causing shit.
I think Andreas is watching the watered down EU version.
That's not really how that works. Yeah.
No, they definitely there's something different there.
I mean, the watershed, right? Like up until, the watershed time, then it's all watered down. But after that, they've got real boobs, not that fake stuff. So
Maybe.
I mean, I'm just happy
Yeah.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in a movie again, and I'm gonna watch it. I
right.
mean, that's enough for me. And then the fact that they have superpowers, I mean, I'm in.
Yeah, he does some good stuff.
He does. I don't think I've seen him in a movie I didn't like him in.
You liked Looper?
Yep.
I think Looper was one of those good premises that could have been done better.
10 Things I Hate About You. That was a terrible movie. He was in it.
I think
Yeah, but
Looper
so many
was probably
good
one of the
people in
weaker
that.
ones, but I mean, it was still an okay movie.
Sure.
wasn't.
Things that we love, arguing. That's why we have these podcasts, so we can get it out of our system.
Jingle All the Way. There you go. There's something that's good.
That's a good movie.
That's a great movie. I don't care what
That's
anyone
the
says.
one with the toy robot thing,
Yeah, man. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad.
right?
It's a classic.
All right. As far as Christmas movies, like they get a huge handicap as far as like the like other storytelling things that I would not enjoy. The Christmas movies tend to get away with, right? Like if this were any other day, any other holiday, whatever. But yeah, Jingle All the Way is okay. What about Last Action Hero? Let's get controversial. Once you understand,
I've still never seen it all the way through.
Really? Okay.
Really.
I think once you understand what's going on, because like I watched it as a kid and everyone's like, I hate this movie. And I'm like,
I think
it's
I've
a
watched that
movie
movie.
about movies. Like, okay, maybe it was too meta for you, but I thought
I have watched that movie several times, and it is delightful.
right.
It's a good movie.
There are some Arnold movies that are like the actual classic ones that I'm not really a big fan. Like Total Recall, I'm not a huge fan of.
Why?
It's
Just didn't.
I've never watched
Yeah,
Total
okay.
Recall.
I think as much as anything, it's aged well because of the fucking memes. Like it's just one of those where it's like you can pull out so many random ass lines that just stick to your memory. Like, oh, don't do that, man. I've got 5 kids to feed. Just like screw you, Benny, and
Oh wait, I have watched that movie. I was
it
thinking
just
about
on
Blade
and
Runner.
on and on. Dude, there's 3
Oh,
boobs in that one.
I was
That's
gonna say,
the
if-
definitive.
We can do our next episode and we can talk about overrated things because Blade Runner's at the top of the list. Of most
Never
overrated
watched.
things
Never
on the
watched
planet.
Blade Runner.
Wait, hold on. The old one or the new one or what?
Well, I never even bothered with the new one because
The
I
new one was
didn't like
good.
the old one so much.
You
The
don't
one
like
was
Tears in the
good.
Rain?
Such an overrated movie.
At what age did you watch this movie?
What, Blade Runner? I don't know.
Yeah.
I was 20
Okay.
for the first
Yeah.
time.
Because sometimes if you get introduced to things, I don't know, out of order or whatever, if you've seen other actually good shit, like I don't think it ages well per se. It's still really good, but it doesn't necessarily age well. So like one of my big examples, right? So many people love the original Exorcist. I'm sorry, man. Like that shit is hokey and not scary and just whatever. Like it's very tropey and whatever. except shut the hell up because it's the original, right? It's one of those where it's like when you look back at it, so many movies have riffed on it and tried to like recapture little moments out of it that when you watch it, you're like, this is just a worse version of other shit that we've seen. Yeah, because they've already aged up the story and redone it. One of my favorite things that like it's still stuck in my head was after watching The Giver with my wife. She was huge into reading, and all through her, preteens and all of this other stuff. Well, The Giver is one of those post-apocalyptic society is controlled and all of this stuff, but we get to break the rules. Well, when you stack that up against the movies that came out before it, because we're talking about the movie, not the book, because the book came out in like the late 80s, early 90s, if I'm not misremembering. You stack it up against like Divergent, which isn't good, but still came out before as a movie, and The Hunger Games, and that was what she said. She was like, The Hunger Games did it better. It was like, stop. That's like saying, like, I'm not really sure about this Lord of the Rings story because Star Wars did it better. Like, stop. Because one of these riffed on the other one, and The Giver is the original. Like, or at least one of it's closer to the source material because you have Strange New World or Brave New World. I think Brave New World was again a lot of the same kind of tropes leading up to that. Even less people familiar with that, but to say like Divergent and Hunger Games, like The Giver borrowed themes from them, and I think Blade Runner kind of gets the same kind of rap is what my underlying point is that I don't know. Maybe
Actually,
it's excuses and shit, but it's one of the originals. Like, which other cyberpunk movie came out first? Like it's foundational. So
I have this idea that I want to like read or listen to, whatever. Stuff like at least The Hunger Games, Divergent. I kind of missed that whole thing.
You didn't
like,
miss anything.
I mean, it's very popular for a reason.
Hunger Games.
That's no. That's terrible rationale.
No, it's not.
So the problem with these is like depending on what they are is that they're really pop culture-y and pulpy kind of like that, which doesn't necessarily sabotage it as a genre, right? But it's the facade is so thin, in my opinion. It's like they're trying to bring some of these themes to like the broader audience when it's just like some of this shit is supposed to be deep and dark. And I mean, like The Hunger Games gets much closer to the mark. And I think that's why I like some of the world building there. And I probably should go read the books, but I've heard, so much crosstalk from the fans on that. But like The Hunger Games got me because of the deeper world building. Like if you took it from just, her perspective, then it's like, yeah, okay, it's not quite hitting the right story beats for me. Whereas like Divergent, I felt like, there was some decent world building. Again, it's post-apocalyptic. They got the government control and all of this shit. But it really, I felt like did kind of go off the rails at some points. I wasn't hooked in the entire time. I don't even remember. I want to say I read it as a trade that I had a coworker who was like, if you read this, I'll read that, type of thing. And
so you gave them Stormfront.
Yeah, well, and then she was impatient for me. I'm almost certain that it was this coworker. So she was impatient for me. She went to go buy the damn thing, and then for months didn't read it. So like I even upheld my end of the bargain for no reason, and whatever. But yeah, like I read all three of them, and it was just like I think I kept waiting for it to get good, and there were some parts in the last book that were good, and then there were other parts that were just like terrible. So
as I understand, I mean, Hunger Games is the big one from that whole thing, right? And then Divergent was the second big one, and then there was like a lot of like Maze Runner, Fifth Wave,
another bad one.
Whatever. Yeah, like the Maze Runner stuff is a non-starter to me because like when I saw that, I was like, wait, like the video game, and I was like, I really don't need like you've got a mindless game or idea, and then we're gonna write this entire compelling backstory and book around it. I don't know, like. I don't read the Doom novels because I got everything I needed out of the game. Like, there's a little bit of backstory that I mostly ignored while I'm running around shotgunning demon aliens in the face. What else do I need? I don't need a backstory for Maze Runner. Like, what? Tell me if I'm missing the point, but that was what came to mind when I saw the trailer. Like, why is this? Angry Birds. Like, why am I watching a movie about angry birds that are launching at things? That's like, here comes the Flappy Bird movie. Like, woohoo! Oh boy, Like, you're just capitalizing on the name at that point,
I have been very happy with like a lot of the times, like I can get a little Justin-y when it's like, oh no, it's popular, therefore I won't take it out. Sometimes, but like when I do, like Ready Player One, I thought the book was great. I don't get that much 80s trope. I'm born in 88. But I thought the book was good.
Read the first chapter
that book?
And I was so really lost. Good. Like, I'm so completely not that target audience. Like, every single reference I had to go look up or find the footnote or whatever.
Forget the references.
Luckily,
the guy writes
they're
like
in the text,
he should be writing with crayon.
I didn't even get to that part of bad writing because it's just like the first chapter of like, this is the prologue and setting everything up, and it's like reference to that stupid music video and that thing. It's like, no, thank you.
So it's just one big pop culture vomit in here.
Yes.
Kind of.
I didn't really get a lot of the pop culture because it was before my time.
Right.
So
but I thoroughly enjoyed the story and the writing. There was nothing I didn't like.
Yes, if you're not the target age group, you're going to have a problem. It's also his writing style, right? So like because I forget what was the other one. He did another one about like alien invasions or something like that, and I was just like, okay, again, super cool, but it turns into like, hey, I dropped that meme for you, and then to not get sued, I'm gonna put it in the notes. And like, I listen to him as audiobooks, which, is sort of good and sort of bad, right? So like Will Wheaton
did
a big reason why I make it through the books. Will Wheaton reading every fucking notation and the scoreboard for 20 places, not why you want to listen to the audiobooks. Ready Player One, every single chapter after a certain point, they're like, and here's the top 20. I would have skipped that shit after the third person, because you don't care who's out of the top three.
I actually didn't think it was that bad, but if something like The Land, there's like, okay, so it's game. It's a game. You're reading a book, a game, kind of like you read like D&D came alive 30 years. Yeah. So there are stat pages in these books.
Oh, no.
And I swear it's like 4 minutes of stat reading, and I'm just like, oh my god, can we move along?
Right. Yeah, so those were pretty terrible, but I was the target audience for Ready Player One. Like, I was the age group that he was memeing about, so that's part of it. I'm not going to say it was like fantastic, but it's like when you see the Easter eggs and the nods and shit in a movie, but the entire book, Yeah,
but it's like, it sounds like it's going to be tropey, kind of bad. I don't know, like all these negative things people say about it. It's kind of true, but it's like in the best possible way. And it's like, I really enjoyed the book. I mean, the movie was okay, but I really liked the book.
Right.
The Martian. I love The Martian. When I saw that movie, I was like, I gotta read this book.
That's a good movie.
I never bothered with the book, but I like the movie.
Right.
The book's
very solid movie.
good.
After we got a 4K Blu-ray player, it was the first Blu-ray we bought, and throwing it on the TV, and I don't think the TV was 4K, so that was the better part, but it was like, holy shit, I'm fucking on Mars. Like, they do such a good job with the imagery and everything, and the story is pretty fantastic, like
the story is good. All of the beats of it, I think they did a really good job, and they dumbed down the science enough that I could grasp it without needing too much more of a thought. They kept it technical while also being digestible. It's very good. And I love their puns about the music and stuff.
Yeah, and again, memeable. Like, I am the best botanist on Mars, so I will do whatever the fuck I want.
Or every time it's Earth Day and they put up the "fuck Mars" quote.
Oh, right.
And he's a space pirate.
Mm-hmm. Mark 1, space pirate.
You should read the book. It's good.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's an interesting story to think about. Like, it counts as science fiction, but it's not anything not real. It just hasn't
There's
happened
some
yet.
things that are not real.
Yeah.
It's
And
not-
like the
whole-
fact
it's
that he
not
actually lived through that
space
whole
magic.
ordeal, yes. You're
Okay,
correct.
the main driving, like how the spaceship kind of works with how they get to Mars is not really based on anything really real. That's one of the biggest, like, just
It's
made
not
up
that it's not
things.
possible, right? It's just hasn't been built yet.
No, that's just. I mean, I'm sure there are theories, but there's no actual, like, path to getting to that at all.
Yeah. My point is that The Martian and Mass Effect are considered the same genre, and they shouldn't be. There is a big
Well,
difference there.
It's like
Yeah.
like the Expanse, right? It's mostly based on real shit,
Right.
but they have to take some liberties in order to make
well,
make
so
it make sense.
the Expanse could still, for some definitions, like let's ignore all the proto-molecule stuff. This is something good because Altered Carbon and the Expanse are some of the best sci-fi in the last several years, in my opinion. So
for sure.
that's,
For sure.
that's
At least
why
Expanse.
I've
I'm not
wanted
done
an
with
excuse to talk about it. But like if you ignore the proto-molecule stuff, right, which obviously becomes even more important as the story goes on, the
Yeah.
Expanse is hard science fiction. Because hard science fiction, you basically, like, at most, you get one give, right? And it's usually a faster than light engine. The Expanse forgoes the faster than light engine and says, okay, we can't do that because there's no way that's going to work. Instead, we've got this juice, this sauce or whatever, this injection that basically helps you withstand G-forces. So, that's like their one big give. But the effects of gravity and lightweight gravity are a big deal. People born and raised on Mars do not do well in Earth gravity. Then you've got the Belters, and they all live on asteroids. So how do you think their bodies react to hard gravity and shit?
Isn't it like
that?
the opening scene in season 1 where you're just like there's the torture scene of the Belter?
I don't know. I haven't watched season 1 for a while. I do probably once we get around to the next season, I'll go back and rewatch them. But there's a lot of hard sci-fi, and like the first season is all private investigator with freaking Thomas Jane, for crying out loud, and it's like if there's anybody you want to be a hard-boiled private investigator type, you picked the right guy, So it also scratches the Firefly itch for people that have that, not in the campy sense, but in the the same kind of like harder, grittier science fiction sense. A little bit more frontier, a little bit more, but it also has a lot of, like, I don't know, for lack of a better term, geopolitics. A lot of the politicians, a lot of I can't remember Arisavala or whatever her character name is. She's fantastic. You've heard her voice in fucking everything.
Yeah.
She was in Star Trek Beyond. I'm sorry I had to say that. That was one of the other things that came to mind. But she was the admiral there, and she's so fantastic because she's in Indian, from India, not Native American, Andreas, just to clarify that. So she's an Indian politician who fucking like swears at everybody, right? She's all like prim and proper when she's on. And then like as soon as they cut, she's like, you motherfuckers, like, what did I tell you? Just like, and she's just such a great, tough character, but for that world, for everything. So I don't know. There's a lot to like in The Expanse. I wouldn't say that it's perfect, but it definitely gets better as you go on. And
My main problem is Holden, actually. I don't know if the actor or the character. I like almost everything else more than him.
Right. The actor's kind of and like the acting in general is kind of wooden in the first couple of seasons, in my opinion. But like then you get into some of the story, like when there's a weakness, like something else comes to like fill in the strength, right? So like the acting might be a little bit weak, but then there's the story, and then the story might be a little bit dry, but then out of nowhere we're just going to have a fight about it. And so like there's always something kind of keeping it going, right? I can't say it's like without flaw. Some people are like, oh my God, it's the best science fiction ever, or it's the best science fiction of the last 20 years, or all this other stuff. I don't know about that, right? Like I'd have to weigh it against a lot of other things, but it is such a great story in general, just, and being so with the realism, talking about, the Martian realism versus, Mass Effect or something. So,
I mean, I think the actor who plays Amos is really good.
I mean, yeah, my brother was afraid when I told him that Amos is my favorite character. So, if you guys are all worried about that, then that's me.
Kamal, actor, is really good too. I don't know, there's just something about Holden that's, I don't know. Don't love him.
Right. So anyway, now that you guys totally got disengaged because you have no idea what we're talking about.
I've heard of it.
That's the thing. It's like you think we have good fights about like Marvel and like what you're behind on. Like we haven't even started to go down the rabbit hole on like what you need to catch up on to to get like the memes and the science fiction and just the everything. But
we probably should do some form of the phrase that comes to mind is like show and tell of like you're gonna watch this thing and then we're gonna fight about it to keep it going. We'll have to figure out how that goes.
What was the thing you're telling me to watch? Like, I know Monster Hunter International, but like...
at the moment, what comes to mind is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Because then I want to argue with free will about you again.
Well, I mean, I watched the movie. Does that count?
Okay, you have seen that movie?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's got Jim Carrey in it back when he only did funny shit, so we watched it by accident.
Ooh. Ooh, that is not. No, that
I think he progressed out of the funny shit by then.
He can
Wasn't
do
that
really
like one of
good
his
hurt.
first, so yeah.
Awesome. Yes, that movie was good. I'd like to talk about it.
If we do talk about it as a show, I'll go rewatch it again. It wasn't that bad where it's like, oh God, no, or whatever.
No, but you should know it is not a comedy, even if Jim Carrey's in it, and he is just extremely good at also showing pain. Yeah,
expressive.
He's a fantastic actor. It's like if you're going to be a good comedian actor, then you also need to be a very good actor in order to pull that off. And so if any of them turn into something serious, it's probably going to be amazing. I've never known when that failed.
Right. Well, it's like the same thing with the Cable Guy, right? Like everyone's like, oh, it's got Jim Carrey, so it's going to be funny. And it's like, not really. So also Sonic, super serious. He nails it in that one.
Nice. Dead Poet Society, when you think about funny actors who can play serious roles really well. I just thought of that movie.
You're just thinking of Robin Williams?
Yeah. Right.
It's a good movie.
I mean, if
Goodwill Hunting's the other one.
Yeah.
Patch Adams, is that the one where he was the doctor?
Adams.
Yeah, that's the one that I think about for that. Like, yeah. So because it is mostly funny until it isn't. So.
Yeah, but the moments that hurt are the I don't know, the parts that I live for.
Good thing it's positivity episode.
I know. So I'm just a masochist.
So we're a bunch of sadists and masochists. Things that we enjoy, being hurt. Things that we also enjoy, hurting others.
I mean, the moment that I left out of Peace Talks the most, which we'll get into in the future episodes, was the moment that made me cry.
Because it hurt?
Was it at the Darks?
No. I don't know if any of you will be able to predict what that was, but sure, I'll talk about that later.
The part that made you cry.
I almost cried there.
Well, now I'm going to have to meditate on this. I don't remember crying. I remember being shocked. I remember being hurt.
Sure.
But yeah. Okay.
People and your emotions.
Do we have an inkling of what we're going to talk about again? Should we do more things that make us happy?
Overrated shit.
Overrated shit? Yeah, I'm down.
Like Star Wars?
Spoken.
Okay, overrated shit. And anyone can leave a comment in any place on this thing, and we'll add it in. Like, what do you think is overrated? And we'll probably agree.
EG's going to get the whiteboard because this is a long time coming, and we all deserve this. So.
I'll keep a list, and we'll just go down.
Ghost.
Right.
Everything you people love.
Oh,
some
whatever.
of that you love too.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like.
Tell me why
This
the
will
thing
be
that you
fun.
love is overrated. Ooh, that's a fun topic. Okay, yeah, that can work. Watch Dresden next week. Peace Talks dissection. Yeah, that's it.
He saw like part 1 of 50.
Yes. Up
Well,
until
we've only got like 20 episodes until the next book, right? So
I don't even think we have that.
10 something,
Because
Not very
it's the end of September.
right?
Yeah, but it's gonna
And
be
it's every
filled.
other, so that's like 8, 9, 10 episodes at the most, I think.
Right.
All right. Otherwise, Broken Jars at XYZ. Am I forgetting anything?
No,
Do we do the drive-through RPG
We
links?
have Drive Through RPG, and we also have a Patreon that gets you into our Discord. And
It's like $2. Don't
Yeah.
buy a soda one
To get
time.
to
And you-
personally interact with EG.
You can
just
tell
get
us,
his
personally
positivity.
insulted in text form.
tell us that we're overrated, so we can talk about it next time.
That would be awesome.
You will not sink this putt, jackass.